What's the biggest difference between how we watch movies now versus how you guys had to watch them when you guys were teenagers in the 80s?
Well, the biggest difference I can think of is that back in the day you had to go to the cinema until video came out, until VCRs came out and the video clubs came out. We had to go to the cinema. We had no choice. I don't know. Is that what you think?
Exactly the same. And you have the world at your fingertips. You can practically see
Now with
streaming
we mentioned
services.
streaming services last week in last week's episode as well, and how it's changed the game, hasn't it? Of you can just watch whatever you want, whenever you want, wherever you want, instead of having to go to the cinema.
Completely.
When was cinema clubs and not cinema clubs, movie clubs and stuff like that, like Radio Shack and stuff, when did they start coming out? When were they becoming very prominent and you could just go wherever you want and they started popping up? In Spain, of course, because you guys lived in Spain in the 80s, so it's different than in the States.
Yeah, here in Spain you didn't have Radio Shack or anything like that. They were basically, there wasn't really any main chains of video clubs or where you could go rent movies. There were normally small, privately owned shops that specialized in video clubs, which also means that the choice was very limited.
Yeah, and when if a new film came out, they may get 4 copies of it, and you had to either go on a list or get there really quick so that you could ensure you could watch it.
Yeah, and also the biggest difference is that the blockbuster films, or most films, but especially the blockbuster films, came out like maybe a year or 2 after the main film had come out. So if Indiana Jones came out in the cinema, you had to wait maybe a year and a half until it was available on your local video club. And also here in Spain in the early 80s, anyway, it changed a little bit in the late 80s. But in the early to mid 80s, in Malaga center, like the city of Malaga, which was the only place where you could actually go to a big cinema that held over 300 people, and therefore the only places that could afford to have blockbusters. There was only one. There was only one cinema in the whole of Malaga, so you could only see one film at a time. If you were lucky, they might have a matinee, a morning film, and an evening film on Saturdays. But mostly it was one film. The rest was just wait, So if the film
one screening a day,
one screening a day, and only one film. So if the film of the year was E.T., that's all you could watch.
And then you had to queue around the block to get in.
Yeah.
I find that so crazy. Because now I feel like especially now, because I feel like cinemas are dying a bit, aren't they? We have a
we got
intrusion.
We got feline intrusion. Anyway, continue, man. This is the way it goes.
Especially with cinemas now, I feel like, and with the introduction of streaming services, cinemas are kind of dying out a bit because, for example, Disney Plus, they released the Fantastic Four movie maybe like a couple months ago, and then a month later it was already on the Disney Plus,